CBN to increase circulation of new Naira notes to meet demands of Nigerians.
Nigeria Governors Forum warns against CBN-induced recession arising from Naira redesign policy.
More vulnerable households benefit from National Social Investment Program.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the updates on the new Naira notes.
What started as a policy with good intentions to rein in trillions of naira outside the vaults of the commercial banks, promote a cashless economy, and dismantle a shadow economy is being marred by implementation challenges that are taking a toll on the informal sector, which is worst hit by the cash squeeze brought about by the CBN Naira redesign policy and scarcity of the new Naira notes.
Of course, Kirian, as we speak, the Supreme Court is adjudicating over the policy which was supposed to be the prerogative of the Federal Republic. Now, the Apex Court last week granted an interim injunction restraining the federal government, Central Bank of Nigeria, as well as commercial banks from implementing the February 10th deadline for the old 200, 500, and 1,000 Naira banknotes to stop being legal tender.
That followed a motion ex parte filed on February 3rd by three northern states of Kaduna, Kogi, and Zamfara, which prayed the Apex Court to halt the Central Bank of Nigeria's Naira redesign policy. The Supreme Court further held that the federal government, the CBN, and commercial banks must not continue with the deadline pending the determination of a notice in respect of the issue on February 15, which is just 2 days away.
And by the interim injunction, the old Naira notes continue to be legal tender, pending, of course, the trial and substantive ruling being anticipated that the federal government would obey the Supreme Court ruling in the hope that the ex parte order, which expires on Wednesday, that's February 15th, would be upturned.
Yes, even though it's still a legal tender, but in some places people don't accept the old Naira notes since yesterday. All right, now the Minister of Justice on behalf of the federal government already filed an objection challenging the jurisdiction of the Apex Court to entertain the matter, arguing that the release sought were against an agency of the federal government and that the Central Bank of Nigeria has powers to withdraw old banknotes and introduce new ones.
Incidentally, more states, including Ekiti, for example, and I think Niger, are seeking to be joined in the suit against the federal government on the grounds that the Naira redesign policy and attendant challenges have affected livelihoods and inflicted pain on all Nigerians. We hear that Kano and Rivers are also threatening to sue the federal government on the same matter, and the governor directing their state attorneys general to join the suit against the federal government.
I'm just wondering this marathon of joining in the suit. Why should state governments do that? There are reasons anyways, but of course, while the CBN Naira redesign policy has now been subjected to a gale of litigations, the National Council of State rose from a meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari last Friday with an advisory to the CBN to recirculate the old notes if it cannot print enough new ones and make them available to ease the current economic tension building up barely 2 weeks to the country's general elections.
The CBN, on its part, has also denied claims that the Nigerian Security Printing and Minting Company, otherwise known as the said reports as misleading, stressing that it was working assiduously to increase the circulation of the new notes in the country.
And the CBN is now being advised on what to do to sustain and safeguard its own Naira redesign policy by all manner of persons and groups. What's the update on the new Naira notes? What more does the CBN need to do to tidy up the Naira redesign policy? Our panel of guests shall speak to these issues on Good Morning Nigeria today. I am Kirian Umay, welcoming you to the show and thanking you for joining us.
And I'm Kingsley Kirian to also welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria, which is coming live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're broadcasting from our headquarters studios in the nation's capital of Abuja. And in the course of the program, we'll serve you our complimentary segments of newspaper review, business, and others. For the highlights of the morning news, we join our colleague Nolene Abel Ame. Good morning, Nolene.
Good morning, Kinsliana. Here is the morning news. The Central Bank of Nigeria says the Nigerian Security Printing and Minting Company is working on printing all denominations of the Naira to meet transaction needs of Nigerians, with no plans to shut down banks. This is contrary to misleading report misquoting the governor, Godwin Emefiele, as attributing the current challenge in the distribution of the newly redesigned Naira notes to shortage of printing materials at the Nigerian Security Printing and Minting as misleading voice note on plans to shut down some banks. In a statement, the CBN appeals to the public to disregard the said report, as it is working assiduously to increase the circulation of the new notes in the country. Similarly, APC presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu is urging the Central Bank of Nigeria to hear public outcry and heed the advice of the National Council of State on the need to take urgent measures towards ameliorating the suffering occasioned by the new Naira notes policy. In a statement, Tinubu raised a 6-point advice, which includes, following the advice of the Council of State, the CBN should announce that the old and new Naira notes will coexist as legal tender for the next 12 months, immediate suspension of associated charges, online transactions, bank transfers and payments via POS until the current crisis is fully resolved. He says the CBN, National Orientation Agency, and Ministry of Information, state and local governments with their relevant public and private sectors should commence a major public enlightenment to further educate the people on the new Naira. The APC presidential candidate states that his running mate, Senator Kashim Shettima, and campaign council do not have anything against the CBN Naira redesign and cashless policy. More than 11,000 vulnerable households have benefited from the National Social Investment Program of the federal government, and the Lagos State government is strategizing to ensure more vulnerable residents have access to the social security initiatives. Government with beneficiaries of the NCIP.
We appreciate your effort that you are making to uplift the people of poverty.
This well-thought-out initiative exemplifies the inclusiveness and the pro-people policy of our party, the All Progressive Congress.
All of these aforementioned interventions should be domesticated and replicated at the state for proper inclusion of yet to benefit Lagosians.
We really benefit from this program, and this program has done a lot of good to our life. To our lives in Badagry as a whole. Some of these kids, because of this food, they want to come to school. So if this continues, it will help.
Authority, we must be professional and avoid acts that will bring the armed forces to these people.
And the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Zubairu Dada, has assured the European Union that Nigeria's electoral body will conduct credible elections and prepare. He was
a civic responsibility without any fear. They are ready to act swiftly and to protect life and property around the country during these elections.
Nigeria requested that European countries should extensify evidentiary requirements and other mutual legal assistance as appropriate in order to facilitate international cooperation for timely recovery and return of recovered assets.
We are really confident that appropriate measures and solutions.
Kano State's role in actualizing the coordinated wholesale initiative of the federal government, which aims to facilitate effective control of sale and distribution of pharmaceutical products. This was during the inauguration of the Kano Coordinated Wholesale Center, facilitated by the state government.
Is that 7 years since it was formally initiated, we stand here to witness this great achievement, the commissioning of the first fruit of this beautiful concept, executed by His Excellency Governor Abdullahi Ganduje.
The Professor Atahiru Jega Committee to End Farmers' Headers Conflict has met in Abuja to give an update on the committee's mandate. About 500 Nigerians, including researchers, government officials, and traditional leaders, attended the meeting to develop a blueprint
assiduously to actualize the objectives of the National Conference and together a range of stakeholders for cross-fertilization of ideas with regards to how to reform the livestock sector in this country for significant value addition to the economy of Nigeria, and also how to ensure that conflicts.
That's the news for now. Good morning. Nigeria continues with Kieran and Kingsley after the commercial break. Please don't go away. I am Nolene Ebel Ame. See you at 10 a.m.
Time don't come for every man to fight for the soul of we country, Nigeria. Now, who go save our fatherland? Who go rescue Nigeria? Now, only one man is stand gidigba, and we all know him. His name na Atiku Abubakar. We they call him the unifier, and in job now to save we country and bring our people together. He get Nigeria for mind, and he ready to work make Nigeria safe and better again. Atiku they come together with Ifeanyi Okowa. This team na heleleo. This no be time for sentiment or paddy. No, this not time for competence. This man sabi in job wella. Atiku na the answer and solution for a brighter and safer tomorrow to the people. Na Atiku Okowa Coalition Edo State bring una this message.
Enjoy 50% discount off in the Airtel Home Broadband Season of Love offer. Buy a router for just 10,000 Naira and get up to 240 gigabyte, or a MiFi for 5,000 Naira and get up to 125 gigabyte bonus data. More data, more you. Reliable home broadband by
Airtel, the smartphone network.
The violent and criminal activities of indigenous people of Biafra and its arm wing, the Eastern Security Network, present the greatest threat in the Southeast zone. However, kidnapping for ransom, armed banditry, communal clashes have been some of the security threats that bedevil the region. Accordingly, joint military operations are being conducted in the southeast to overcome the threats. In collaboration with other security agencies, are achieving the set objectives, which are the defeat of the threat and restoration of peace and security in the region.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The new Milo 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. So, no need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish and energize your kids.
On election day, I go take my PVC. When I reach where I vote, I broom and go put my hand over Tinubu. On election day, I go take my PVC. When when I reach where they vote to. I go put my hand for Tinubu.
Come out on election day and vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu as president. Make Nigeria for better. Make you put your hand for APC. Party where show broom. Not forget now broom you go put your hand in. Bam!
On election day, I go take my PV when I reach where they vote to. I go put my hand for Tinubu.
The security challenges we have faced as a government have been daunting, from terrorism to banditry, to kidnapping, to separatist violence, to crude oil theft, to arm, to the peace and security of our great country since the Civil War of 1960s. President Muhammadu Buhari, we can say, I want to repeat, that the worst is over and peace and security are gradually returning to the land.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Well, you are still tuned to Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. And of course, it's time for business as you join Kunle Adeye.
Agriculture has contributed substantially to the gross domestic product GDP in the last 5 quarters. To sustain the feat, a development economist, Dr. Emeka Okengu, is craving for proper alignment among the 3 tiers of government. He said the entire sector should be unbundled to optimally utilize its gains.
What's important is that we must treat agriculture for what it is. The Ministry of Agriculture should be a ministry that superintends standards. Now, if we're going to be a ministry that superintends standards, then it simply means that standards have to be established that they can superintend. There must be an alignment between the subnationals and the nationals in first agri policies, okay, then agri programs, okay, then agri funding. All right, you can't have the federal government having a different from the state government, and then divergent funding regimes is not going to work. So first and foremost is to close the rank, and then let's be able to treat Nigeria as a whole. That's one. 2, we must be able to disaggregate agriculture. You must, remove forage production. That's an economy. Food production from medicinal plants, that's an economy. Forage, that's an economy. All right? So you must be able to now, have clear programs.
Dr. Okengu enjoined the private sector to show more interest to complement the efforts of governments. With business news, I'm Kunle.
Coming up next for us now is Newspaper Review.
It's good to welcome Chukwudi Waja on this beat newspaper review. Chukwudi, it's good to have you again today.
Kirian, good to be here again and good to see you. Kinsley, how are you doing?
Very well, and you? I hope you had a pleasant weekend.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did.
And,
how did you manage the weekend? About the Naira crunch? Do you have enough cash? Did you have enough cash for the weekend?
It's only when we go to the market I really get into trouble. Otherwise, transaction is done online, and then you don't have a lot of problems.
Exactly.
Yes.
What kind of trouble do you get into? Because, as the saying goes, different strokes for different folks.
Yes.
Sometimes you just worry about yesterday, and before then I had topped up my my fuel tank, went to that at the filling station, and I used, of course, my debit card. No issues. Yesterday, I also went to the market, and before the transaction, I asked the vendor, said, look, what do you have ATM, or do you accept transfer? Do you have POS or do you accept transfers? And they said, you know, we'll have a POS, and that's no problem. I made my purchases, and these were groceries.
Stalls,
fruit Naira. So when you hear all these conflicting tales about, there are some areas where people are still, of course, selling the Naira at a discount. In other words, they top up on the margins that they make, and so on and so forth. But let's not, I mean, as I said, different strokes for different folks.
Yes. I'm just not so much worried, you know, about the situation at the moment, because, of course, the objective for which the Naira is redesigned is being felt already. People are getting used to, you know, online banks. So,
and if you transfer, there will be a trail.
You know,
and gentlemen, sorry, because we have stories of on the front page, front pages of the papers. Last week, the Council of State met, and after the meeting of the Council of State, I was amused reading the different perspectives adopted by the different papers depending on the interests that they were pursuing. The Council of State, two major decisions on the cashless policy. One, they told the central bank to say, look, release more new Naira notes. And if you cannot release those new Naira notes, allow the circulation of the old ones along with it. Some of the papers said, look, allow circulation of old Naira notes. That was the only perspective they took. Others took the perspective, allow the new Naira notes to come in, pump in more Naira notes. And then there was a third one, where the central bank governor was said to have admitted that the mint cannot come. That was what led to the refutation of the story. So, first of all, you have fake news. You have all kinds of perspectives being taken by different persons.
Quickly, Kingsley just dropped something. I don't like us coming here to vilify members of our clan. But Kingsley said, depending on which interest is being pursued by the newspaper, the specter of whose journalists are you is rising in this country, and it doesn't help us.
The owners of the not all, but majority of it, they're owned by even radio, TV, and tabloid. They're all there. Okay, now let's go. Voice of Reasons, direct state aid families starve. Well, all that allegations, if you ask me. Now, pages 2, 6, and 20. There are other stories trending on Daily Sun this morning. Can PFN mobilization alleges? I never wrote such letter, says alleged author. Okay, it's on page 28. DPO, 4 officers killed in shootout with bandits in Niger. On page 4. Army will ensure conduct of free, fair elections, GOC. It's on page 26. That's where you get details of that. Kogito IGP on Bawa, allowing convicts roam the street portends danger to judicial system. Asks police to immediately arrest EFCC boss, commit him to prison. It's on page 8. Polls, Catholic bishops raise concerns over beavers' efficiency. It's on page 7. Fuel stations flout federal government's directive, insist on cash payment. That story on pages 2 and 21. Tinubu will win Rivers convincingly, APC polls. It's on page 28. That's at the bottom of the Sun newspaper. Kingsley.
All right, the Vanguard also has similar stories on the cash grid, so we'll skip those ones, but you'll see the headlines on the screen. But quickly, other headlines on the front page of the Vanguard: federal government overwhelmed by insecurity and worsening the economy. That's according to the Catholic bishops. Warn against do-or-die politics as general elections draw nearer. CBN to court: returning old Naira notes will encourage vote buying and kidnapping. Turkey, Syria, quick propaganda can't derail our momentum. Will be dirty. To review suit at Supreme Court. Pupil's death, and some will say Chrisland again. Lagos government shuts Chrisland school. Chukudi.
You have already taken the wind out of my sails, so to speak, by the preemptive discussion, which I liked the robustness of. So let me quickly just say that governors are becoming economists in their argument. That a recession might result from what is happening now. And of course, they're telling the CBN to listen to the voice of reason. They can push their argument, that people might have their own perspective. Now, let me take just one, since we have talked a lot already. And that has to do with One of the last headlines you dropped, bandits kill Niger DPO, 4 policemen. The other day, I intoned that news these days revolve around politics, politicking, some governance, and wait for it, homicide. On a daily basis, homicide. And this last bit is becoming worrisome to me. I know it's not something that many people find palatable as well. It's not a crime to be in uniform in this country. How do we safeguard the lives of men dressed